Welcome, everybody, to New York Got Game Knicks Weekly Live. Dexter Henry would normally be saying this, but he's abandoned you guys. He will not be here this week. He is out suit shopping, doing what he does, actually just as a prior commitment. So he will not be here this week talking about the Knicks. But we do have an episode dropping tomorrow, as a matter of fact, talking about some big picture things. So go be on the lookout for that. But for this live, we will take your comments. As always, we will take your questions. We will do real or not. And I will be joined by a guest who will be guest hosting this time. So filling in for Dexter Henry, friend of the show. We've had her on many times before for FanSided, covering the NBA and WNBA, Candace Pedraza, joining us right now. Candace, one of my favorite people in this business. And obviously, I know you have a lot of Knicks thoughts. This is the most Puerto Rican that this account will be. So I'm very appreciative of that as well. But Candace, thank you for filling in for Dexter here, which I know he'll be appreciative of.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to chop it up about the Knicks. Probably a little too early, but excited to talk about the Knicks, which is great.
5-3. Off to a great start, undefeated at home. We're going to get into all that stuff. And again, comments, questions as you see them. There's a lot to get into in Knicks world, as you all know, and you all have been here throughout the season and will continue to be here. So we're only in the first week of November. We've already seen some highs and lows as it relates to the reactions to Mike Brown, the reactions to the rotations, Mitchell Robinson being in and out of the lineup. And then last night, Candace, it felt like everything just clicked, especially in the second half, and more so in the second half. Because in the first half, as we talked about before we started here, first half didn't look awesome. Felt like they left a lot on the table. And the third quarter, I had said, this is the best third quarter we've seen, the best 12-minute stretch, the best quarter we've seen of Knicks basketball this year. And then in the fourth quarter, it was like, oh, no, this is actually the best half we've seen of Knicks basketball this season so far. So what were your takeaways? Because I felt encouraged looking at that. And this was a Minnesota team that was whole. They just got Anthony Edwards back from injury, and he was good in the first half, not so much in the second. But they were whole, and that's something that we'll get into a little bit more. But your takeaways from last night's game overall, and what you sort of learned from that experience.
Yeah, I feel like from the first half, what stood out to me was when you don't have a secondary playmaker that's as good as Jalen Brunson on the floor, especially with that bench unit, when you're facing a defender like Dante DiVincenzo, who, like we all know, is a pest when it comes to getting into passing lanes, fighting over screens, doing whatever is necessary to just mess up a play, you're going to struggle. You have Mikal Bridges bringing the ball up. That wasn't really working against him. You had Cat trying to do the same thing. OG, we know, is not a great ball handler. So we saw some things that just seemed unnatural for the Knicks. In the second half, I feel like that flipped. They were able to get a lot more motion on their offense, especially with OG Anunoby able to hit so many shots.
Right.
His finishing has been ridiculous, of course, to begin the year. Again, I feel like he's probably going to lead the league in dunks for non-big men,
Yeah.
just because that's just how he plays. He loves to drive to the basket. I was actually reading a fantastic article today in The Athletic from James Edwards about OG and just how he's always trying to like pass up a good shot for a great shot. And that kind of stung the Knicks in a way last year because he was always hesitating on those 3-pointers. This
Mhm.
year, it feels like he's so comfortable hitting those threes, whether they're contested or open, but he'll also not be afraid to drive to the basket. So I feel like that was the big difference in the second half. And then overall in the game, you saw the importance of Mitchell Robinson being able to play because those second chance point opportunities don't come easily without him on the floor with Cat. Both of them are rebounding machines, but Mitch is such a good finisher when he's getting a rebound. And that also just kills Minnesota's momentum in that second half. So I really loved seeing the rotations that were thrown out in that second half, the trust that was put in OG as sort of like the offensive hub, which you don't really think of when you think of OG a lot of the time. And Mitch has just been fantastic. So I was happy. Great second half. That was definitely like their best second half of the season.
All great points. Mitchell Robinson. So Mike Brown last night, who walks into the press conference room, he looks at all of us and he goes, "Have any of you ever seen somebody get 9 offensive rebounds in 16 minutes.
It's crazy.
Everyone's just looking at each other like, well, somebody said yes, and then they said Mitchell Robinson, which was kind of like the punchline there, I guess for him, which is I thought well done. But I mean, this is why he matters. This is why I think the two big lineup is a good move. I have questions about their depth at center. I'm an Ariel Hawkporty optimist, but we haven't seen it yet. And I think the two big lineup can work because Towns is probably more effective when he's next to a Mitchell Robinson or previously of Rudy Gobert. And with Mitchell Robinson, you could see him dominating the game on both ends in limited minutes. Like it's 16 minutes, he's getting nine offensive rebounds. Offensive rebounds, not rebounds. Like Andre Drummond could get 9 rebounds in 16 minutes, but offensive rebounds, second possessions, and then because the offense is different, there's more just movement, there's more not full-fledged egalitarianism, but you're seeing more of a distribution compared to last year where it felt a little bit more isolation heavy. So I mean, Mitchell Robinson, it feels like that felt like a Mitchell Robinson is back performance, but I also don't want to overreact to that because it was one game. But this is why he matters, and that my takeaway from that at least is just, man, like they need him to be healthy. I just don't know if he's going to be for the entire season.
Right. That's the frustrating part because we could see the impact that he has in, I don't know how many minutes he played last night, but I know it wasn't a lot at all.
16. Yeah,
Like
it
it
wasn't
was
much.
like
16
bench
and you have
minutes
the starter.
essentially.
Right.
And we see the impact that he had in those minutes. I do not trust that Mitchell Robinson can play 30 minutes a game on average anymore, which is fine. But the Knicks have to be okay with that and adjust accordingly to that. But if he's going to make that big of an impact, where those 9 offensive boards in that short amount of time, getting those second chance scoring opportunities impacted the game so heavily, especially in that third quarter, you become a little bit more okay with the fact that he's become just a glorified bench center when he really should be a starter but can't be. So
He basically and because of that, I mean the team overall, it 21 offensive rebounds. That means 42% of their rebounds were on the offensive side of the ball because they had 50
which is
rebounds.
wild.
It's just
Absolutely
like
wild.
the math essentially. Let me ask you about Deuce McBride specifically because I found it interesting that, and yeah, we should talk about the star players too, but with Deuce McBride specifically, Mike Brown walked into the presser and this was the first guy he was raving about. He, in some way, shape, or form, said Deuce won him the game because of how much he popped on both ends of the floor. Highlighted his two-way effort. He highlighted other guys too, like Mitchell Robinson, as I mentioned, Josh Hart later on. And how could you not? You know, Jalen Brunson, obviously, like he damn near got a triple double yesterday. But Deuce rounding into form after a little bit of a slow start too, and just overall with the bench, it does feel like last night they kind of put it all together, led by Deuce McBride and Josh Hart, but Deuce being a big part of that victory from a two-way perspective and leaving an impression on Mike Brown specifically. I mean, 14 points in 21 minutes, also had the 4 assists, no turnovers, was 2 of 5 from 3, was 6 of 10 from the field. But beyond that, just trying to cause havoc on the defensive end. I mean, he feels like one of their most important guys on the roster. Like, I mean, what are your takeaways from him so far this season and especially last night?
I feel like with Deuce, and it was interesting to see the juxtaposition between him and Anthony Edwards last night. I know they're not
Mm,
comparable. Like Ant is, a
right.
star, obviously. Deuce can be too, but at the moment he's the Knicks' best bench player. But when you saw Ant really committing a lot on the defensive end of the floor to Jalen Brunson, it's obvious that that impacted him on the offensive side because he didn't have a very high scoring game. He wasn't very efficient from the field. And I feel like a lot of that had to do with because he was dedicating a lot of his energy to trying to stop Jalen Brunson on defense. With Deuce, you never feel like one is going to be sacrificed for the other with him, which makes him so much more impactful, especially for that second unit, because he will obviously fight over screens and use up a lot of energy getting into passing lanes, even grabbing boards, uh, just being a pest on defense. But you also feel confident in the fact that those rainbow threes are going to hit as well. He's a great finisher at the rim when he gets there. He has great vision. So with Deuce, it's just the best of both worlds, obviously, but I really do enjoy the fact that he is so versatile in that he works off of Jalen Brunson really well in the backcourt, but he's also obviously become the bench general. And I feel like that was a big concern of mine going into this season was where's that playmaking going to come from in that second unit? Like you have Hoopers, you have Jordan Clarkson, you have Deuce, but Deuce has definitely taken a nice little role with that bench unit as their leader in that sense, which is great to see because Jordan Clarkson is his vet. But it
Mm.
doesn't feel like Deuce has taken a step back to accommodate him in any way, which is not a bad thing because Jordan Clarkson can be frustrating to watch play basketball. But with Deuce, very trustworthy. And again, you just never feel like he's going to sulk on one end and thrive on the other, as opposed to Ant, where you're getting one or the other on any given night.
Yeah, and I think that consistency is going to be key for him. He wasn't as consistent last year, it felt like, but it feels like this year, if it's there, that's going to be big for their bench unit, especially because I mean, at guard, I have questions about their depth that I didn't think I'd have this early on in the season. On really just overall, Jordan Clarkson, I felt like would be a little bit more of a seamless fit. Gerson Yabusele, I felt like would be a fit, period. And we haven't really seen it yet, although there's something to be said for, hey, maybe he'll look better in December for reasons that we won't talk about. And then, I don't, Tyler Kolek, I'll ask you about him in a second, perhaps. We do have a comment. We'll take questions, comments throughout the show. Let's see if we can get this one up here. But I do think with the bench conversation, it's real interesting. So, first one we have so far, we have Stanley. Stanley says 20 minutes of Robinson is enough. This guy's a game wrecker on the boards and a terror on defense. Yeah, terror on D. So I mean, I do think 20 to 25 is the range ideally. Candace, what do you think about how they should utilize Mitchell Robinson? Because you do need to watch his minutes. He's already missed more games than he's played. That mysterious, just missing opening night, missing a couple games after that, was a little bit weird. And it doesn't feel like that's something we're going to be over the entire time. He's also playing for a new contract. We've talked about in an episode dropping tomorrow about how many games he'll play this year, and why I think they should get a backup center. But I mean, do you have any queasiness over the minutes? Like, I don't think we should see him play 30 minutes really ever until the playoffs, if necessary.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I feel like the 20-minute range about is where I would anticipate him to stick around for a majority of the season, especially to try to keep him as healthy as possible for the postseason. Because this is a team that I don't believe this at the moment, but this is a team that believes they will make it to the NBA Finals this year. So if they're trying to maintain him for the season, 20 minutes is perfect. I also think it will definitely come down to situational game planning. If they're playing the Cavaliers, for example, I feel like a double big lineup would be perfect, especially since neither Cat or Mitch are very good at guarding fives that can hit threes, but at the same
Yeah.
time, will at least be able to contain a Jarrett Allen very efficiently. And that throws things off for Cleveland. And we've also seen how Mitch seems to take those matchups very personally against Cleveland for some reason, but we all love him for it.
Double big lineup.
Yeah,
I get it. I listen. I'd probably be pissed off too if like, yo, they think these guys are better than me. These two centers, center and a half, really, because Evan Mobley's kind of a tweener. Although Evan Mobley, he's had some games this year and some moments this year. Like that's the one thing with Cleveland that could really elevate them is if Evan Mobley really makes that jump into stardom. Which is something that's on the table. It's been on the table since they drafted him, but we'll see. And they also need to get healthy. Okay, let's talk about the new look offense a little bit. Do you actually think it's vastly different from what we've seen? We have an 8-game sample size now. We're only 10% of the way through the season, but do you think, or rather, are you impressed with what you've seen? Are there more encouraging signs than not? Do you feel like there are things they need to get away from? Just what's your view? And people comment as well on this. What do you guys think of the new look offense? Candace, what do you think about it right now?
yeah. I mean, right now, the best that we've seen of them has come from speed and pace, which is not something that we're used to watching with the Knicks because they are both a little bit on the less athletic side compared to other teams, and also just aren't used to running the
True.
way that they have been.
Mm.
But it's
Yeah.
been beneficial to both Mikal Bridges, to OG Anunoby, and I think to Karl-Anthony Towns. The player that I feel like it will mostly benefit, and I hope it stays benefiting him, is Josh Hart, because I think that
Mm.
he really does well in pace, in a very high pace offense, because the Knicks need more pressure at the rim. And the only person that could really do that in that starting lineup outside of Josh Hart is Jalen Brunson. And that's asking a lot, especially from a 6'1", 6'2" guard to handle while also running the offense, hitting threes, hitting the mid, just doing everything else on offense. To have Josh Hart next to you and be able to pressure the rim and you don't have to, he is going to put so much more pressure on defenses that might be sagging off of him just because of how he started the season.
Yeah.
So I feel like the offense has yet to hit its peak or its ceiling. But I think that second half also from yesterday reveals a lot about where they could go in terms of it being a lot more of a democratic offense compared to last year where it was Jalen Brunson or
Yeah.
bust, especially in the postseason, which was ridiculously frustrating.
Yeah, and Josh Hart's an interesting one because people were freaking out the first few games. He seems to have gotten it back to some extent. These last few games, he's looked better. I think that's another one where it's just going to linger all season long. He said it before the year. He's like, "Yo, I got this finger injury. I got surgery. Eh, I'll get it again, but not during the year. Trying to win a championship. Don't really want to
It's
sit
crazy.
for long period of time. And a lot of times, if you break a finger, if you break a hand in the NBA, that's often 6 weeks or so, could be a couple months. So I don't think no one wants to go under a knife and get a surgery, and guys generally don't want to miss games. I mean, for the most part, Josh Hart definitely does not. You can tell
Yeah.
by the way he plays and then the style he plays with. I think, yeah, it's interesting because I found that like in regards to the offense, last night specifically, another thing Mike Brown said that was interesting was he was joking with Kevin Herter after one of the Bulls games. And Kevin Herter obviously played for him in Sacramento. And Mike Brown was basically like, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" Kevin Herter said, "Man, you took everything from Sacramento, and you're trying to do everything here." And I remember watching the game in that moment and being there looking at, okay, they're moving the ball well, but sometimes they're overpassing. They're not getting the cleanest looks off. This is in the first half. It feels like too many shots are late in the shot clock, which is what you want to do. You want to put them in a Jalen Brunson save us position, and you don't want Jalen Brunson ISOing. If you're a defense, like with any success at a high level. But what you also would prefer is he's working very, very hard early in the game, because late he's the guy that has to take you home. And if Jalen Brunson doesn't have the energy to do so, they can struggle. And then in the second half is where you saw it sort of flip, and it's like, okay, the ball is flying now. So they established that foundation in the first half. The ball was flying around the court in the second half. It was moving. Guys were taking shots at the right times. Guys were being aggressive. Josh Hart would be decisive with the ball too yesterday. He would take three. He would attack. He's taking more threes. His 3-point attempt rate is the highest it's been, I think, with the Knicks by far at this point. Mikal Bridges is also taking a lot of threes. Like they are spreading it out, and I think those are the things that stand out to me as like, okay, can this be sustainable? And I find myself kind of asking this about every team. It feels like the Heat are running a crazy offense right now. Is this sustainable? Indiana was doing it last year. Is this sustainable? And they picked it up as the year went. And the Knicks also. It's like, how long are you going to stick to these principles? Same goes for everyone else. We got a few more comments here. Let's see. Leah Sim09 says, I think Jordan Clarkson's trying to buy into the system. First time I see him play, not chucking shots now. That's interesting. Jordan Clarkson could be maddening for a lot of people, but I think he works because they're going to need that creativity. What are your thoughts on this? I do feel like he is buying in, so to speak, and he's doing a good job of not getting in the way too much. And I think part of that is because they seem to want to play him off the ball consistently.
Yeah, I was actually at the Wizards game on Monday, and
Mm.
what I noticed from him was that like you just said, he was cutting a lot more to the basket. He was trying to get more involved as a screener in the pick and roll with Cat. He was passing up shots if they weren't there. He had like maybe one chuck or like two at max, but that is so different, as this person commented on, like, than normal for Jordan Clarkson. I'm so used to Utah Jordan Clarkson, where there was no rules and he could just kind of do whatever he wanted because they weren't going in any which way in terms of direction or trying to establish an offense at that point. With this system, it feels like he is definitely buying in. I also noticed that I feel like he's a lot more active on defense than usual. And when they signed him, my initial question was, all right, that's great, but like they need somebody who can defend off of the bench that's not just Deuce. And he's been pretty solid, I would say. He fights over screens at a pretty decent rate. I feel like his length really bothers other guards, which is something that the Knicks really did not have last season. But yeah, I totally agree. I feel like he is fitting really well on this bench, especially next to Deuce, who is always looking to drive and kick out. So him off ball has been fantastic for this offense.
Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for reading this next name. But we will mention the comment. Joe Blosif comments. We need
Nice.
to be able to do this. We need to be able to do this ball movement, shot selection, and rebounding on the road. It's starting to gel. Can we take it out of the Garden? This is a great question. They're undefeated at home. On the road, it's been a little shaky. Now, this schedule, we actually went through this, and I'm gonna pull this up so I have it in front of me. But this schedule, moving forward, it's amazing that they're winless on the road, and they've been undefeated at home. And you're in the middle of a huge homestand right now. There is a big road trip in November, though. You still have 4 games at home. You have Brooklyn on Sunday. You have Memphis and Orlando next week, back to back, by the way. Two teams that seem to be free falling a little bit and searching for answers. I'm way more optimistic that Orlando gets it together. And I think their ceiling is higher, but we'll see. You have the home and home with Miami, and that kicks off the road trip because you're in Miami, you're in Dallas, then you're in Orlando. For some reason, the Knicks are going from Florida to Texas to Florida to New York because they play Brooklyn, and then to Charlotte, only to go back to New York after that. So, like, just a lot of extra miles there. Hopefully, Delta or JetBlue or whoever they fly with, they get a lot of points for these trips. This is weird. But the travel schedule is interesting. But that's a road trip that can get weird. It's Miami's never a gimme, even though you will have a lot of Knicks fans there. Dallas, we don't know what shape they're going to be in, who's going to be healthy. That's going to be a thing from a day-to-day basis. Orlando, will they have it together by that point? Brooklyn, and then Charlotte, who I think is talented, but they're always banged up. Brandon Miller could be back by then. We'll see about LaMelo Ball as well. So can they take this to the road? Do you have any concerns, I guess, is what I'll ask off of Joe's question, and thank you for that. And we'll get to some more before we get to real or not to get up out of here. Do you have concerns about the home road splits? They're winless on the road, but undefeated at home. I don't. I think they'll be okay. And I think the games that they lost were, mostly tough opponents. Miami, Milwaukee, and Chicago. Nobody's a cakewalk there. Any concerns?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I have none. I think that's probably, just like you said, a very tough start to the road schedule there. Dallas, I am not super confident about, so I feel like they could probably snap that there if they don't manage to do it against Miami. Brooklyn, you're essentially playing in MSG, just a little bit further out. On
Better
the train.
piece at Barclays Center, to be honest. MSG got to step
I
it
will
up.
say that, yeah, Barclays does have good food.
Yeah, I would
Charlotte,
actually better food. Period. I agree with that.
yeah,
Just if you go to Barclays Center and cover a fight, it'll smell more like weed than it does at the Garden.
yeah,
You take
yes,
that road trip.
exactly.
But anyway,
But no real concerns. I guess the only concern would be, do their charter flights get impacted by all these flight cancellations?
no, Stanley,
And
no, like, yeah, they, no, they don't.
that's,
They have team planes. Yeah, no, they're fine.
yeah,
Especially this team, they'll have a team plane. It's just, hey man, you never know with the state of things how it can get. All right, let's see what else we have in the comment section before we get to real or not. You have a lot of guest appearances in the background there, Candace. Is Christmas spirit early in your part of the world? which is
Yeah.
a fun watch from afar. Fred Flint, who has commented before, a friend of the show. It's early in the season; these games don't matter. Things change once the postseason starts. Um, so Fred, are you saying that you're kind of tuned out on everything until April, maybe? I think the regular season matters when you're trying to install new things. I think you know, from a standpoint of you don't want to freak out too soon. Yeah, I think some of that's true, but I don't think the games are wholly irrelevant. But I will say, like, how much do you remember the first couple months, save for a few things? I mean, the main thing I would say, to your point though, is getting healthy and being healthy at the right time, which was a thing last year, and they got as far as they have in a quarter century. But I still think these matter, but to an extent. I also don't want to overdo it, so to speak. Candace, you have any disagreements with that?
No, I get where you're coming from with that. I kind of see it from the perspective of it is really early, so I'm trying not to overreact to how well they looked. Um, but at the same time, especially with a new head coach, it's kind of nice to see that they're trying to establish an identity on offense and defense again. It's not like we're watching Tibbs for another season and we kind of know what's gonna happen. Um, so I understand it, but at the same time, I think the regular season this year for the Knicks is very important just to establish that chemistry, that foundation, and see what they can carry into the postseason. But it's a season of attrition. So, like you said, if they could be the most healthy team coming out of the East, then that gives them a great shot, regardless of what happened in the regular season. So I'm on both sides, I guess, of that fence. I also just like watching regular season games. So
East Blue Drew also bringing the all caps energy. We appreciate it. By the way, if you missed at the top of the show, Dexter Henry, prior engagement, he's got some things to do. So Candace filling in, follow her work at FanSided, covering the NBA, covering the WNBA, and even the NFL. If you're a football fan, East Blue Drew, what's up, y'all? Love the win last night. The Golden State Knicks are here to stay. Mike Brown was an assistant, championship winning assistant at Golden State, among his many stops in the NBA. Says we about to get these wins easy. Always appreciate the all caps energy. I want to go a little further down before we get to some other ones because these Butchers said, nah, this is at you, Candace. He's targeting you specifically. He says, nah, take the tree down. The turkey ain't defrosted yet.
wow, that's crazy. It's Christmas. It's over.
I'm,
We're done.
I'm here to tell you, East Blue True, us Puerto Ricans, like, soon as Halloween's over, we're ready.
It's
The
a
music
wrap.
starting, you know what I mean? We're playing all the salsa classics, and we're getting ready. I'm actually gonna put my tree up probably this weekend, as we get into that. Thanksgiving comes around, the tree for Christmas has to be up. You got to have something to look forward to. You know, the holidays are great. Hopefully y'all will appreciate holiday basketball. Obviously, the Knicks always have a game on that day, so we'll be covering that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Joe, again in the comments, it literally looks like we were getting killed by last year. We are no, it literally looks like everything, excuse me. It looks like everything we were getting killed by last year, we are doing this year. Running, substituting, three-point shooting, etc. And I think this was why you want a different philosophy with someone who isn't Tom Thibodeau. I don't know if Mike Brown's going to be better or worse, but I've always said they hired somebody to be different. So far to this point, he's different. Will that yield better results? We're not going to know for many months. We're not going to know till the spring, ultimately. But right now, on paper, I do feel like he's hitting a lot of the notes that the front office wants, that the front office intended. Um, what do you think of this, Candace, in terms of the things that they're doing differently? And is there a world that you feel like, I'll ask you this, can they stray too far and like lose whatever their identity should be?
I think first of all, I do agree that they're doing everything that killed them last year, especially against the Pacers in the postseason, because the Pacers were such a quick team. You had Tyrese Halliburton, who could stretch the floor for you, Andrew Nemhard, who was pressing, Pascal Siakam doing the same thing. And so it was very difficult to contain that team. And the Knicks couldn't match that energy. It was like the slowest team in the NBA versus the fastest, and you could tell, and it was awful. Um, because every time the Knicks fought for a basket, it felt like they were getting beat by hammers. And then they would go to the other end of the floor, and the Pacers were just scoring in 5 seconds. So, very difficult product to watch compared to this year, where it's very obvious they're trying to invest a lot more in that pace, in 3-point shooting. And I think there is a world where they could go too far, because that's not necessarily what I think of when I think of Jalen Brunson. That's not something I think of when I think of Yabusele at the moment, just for an example. They do have players that play well in pace, that are ball handlers. So Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, even Jordan Clarkson, players that are benefiting from it, like Mikal Bridges, OG. But there are players like Brunson where I wonder, will this burn him out a bit faster playing in a faster system? Doesn't seem like it would, but that's definitely where my concern would probably lie. Is he going to be 100% comfortable in
Yeah.
this system the entire year and in the postseason?
Yeah. It's hard to know. Like, that's the thing. The NBA is so fast now, and there's been a lot of talk about injuries. I've obviously shared thoughts on this show and other platforms, including my own YouTube channel, and I've talked about this where a lot of players, like, it feels like they're getting hurt because of various different things, but among others, the game is so fast, and also these guys are traveling a lot and at weird times. You don't know if they're getting the proper rest. They're getting treatment. They're getting stretched out and all these different things by trainers and such. But a lot of times you're flying in at 4 a.m. Like, we still don't know everything about, like, Eric Spoelstra's situation, for example, but he gets home and his crib is on fire last night. He was getting home from a trip in Denver where it was like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and his house is in flames. Luckily, nobody seems to be hurt there, and hopefully he rebuilds, because I can imagine what that's like. But, like, the travel schedule is just all over the place. So, yeah, the key, again, with the Knicks is just getting healthy in April. Like, that's really what it is, and continuing to build these good habits, because I do think, at least at home, they're building some good habits. There were some red flags, if you want to call it that, like in the Chicago game, for example, the first one, but they bounced back at home. And then with Milwaukee and Miami, like in the second half, they kind of lost it a little bit. Milwaukee, they were shredding their offense. They were shredding Milwaukee with their offense in the first half, but really in the second quarter. And then Milwaukee just sort of counteracted that. Like, hey, you're gonna, if you're gonna build a wall with Giannis, then we're gonna spread you out and give Giannis these corner shooters and have him hit these guys here. AJ Green is making a shot. Rollins is making a shot on the corner, and now what we're going to do is open up these driving lanes for Giannis, because now you're going to have to play out to the shooters, and then the Knicks never recovered from that. Like, that was a really good adjustment that killed them. So we're going to learn more about them as this sort of progresses. See what else we have in the comments before we end with real or not. Okay. By the way, we also got one about specifically Cam Thomas, because someone mentioned him being a Nick killer. He got hurt in the last game, has some hamstring tightness. Don't know what's going to happen there, and don't know if he's going to play on Sunday either. So, and Fred Flint also adds, as long as they're all healthy. Yeah, did y'all not see that story? Did I just break some news to some people? Yeah, that Spoelstra stuff came out a little bit earlier. So, yeah, hopefully all is well. Fred Flint said, as long as they're all healthy by the postseason, presumably, that is where I'm excited, because right now their defense on the 3-point line needs a lot of work. I don't disagree with that, actually. I do think you could hurt them from three. You could find some shots, and we'll see what happens there. But okay. Real Cam, no assist, Thomas, not nothing to fear. Let's do real or not. As you know, and if you're new here, welcome. What we do is we end the show with 3 things that are real or not. Candace is going to play along in this instance. 3 things that are real or not in terms of what could happen this season, moving forward, so on and so forth. So, real or not, the first one is, real or not, the Knicks have found their rhythm, or their rotation, rather. The Knicks have found their rotation when healthy. Like, have we seen the rotation? Remember, Tyler Kolek was there in the beginning. Now he's out of it. Trey Jameson had to take some minutes for Mitchell Robinson, obviously. He's out of it. Ariel Hawkporty started the game. He's not really in the rotation now. Is what we're seeing now, just to run through it real quick, For people who may have missed it and coming off their best performance, they put up nearly 140 against Minnesota. This was the rotation. It was obviously your starting five, which is Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. And the other guys who are really getting rotation minutes coming off the bench: Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson, Landry Shamet got 11 minutes. Gershon Yabusele got 8 minutes, but he really had 5 until garbage time. I think that's a 9.5-man rotation. It's really a 9. Is this the rotation, Candace? Do we think that's real or not, that this is the rotation?
I'm gonna go with not. Just because actually before we got on, I was looking at their lineups and their most frequent lineups, and it's wild how much distribution and like variation there is. Like they have not stuck with one thing all season so far. Obviously, very small sample size, but their two most successful lineups, it looks like, have been the one that they've played the most with, so 37 minutes of Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
They have a net rating of 23.5. Pretty good in
Real.
37 minutes.
Yeah.
Pretty good. The second, or actually the fifth most common lineup after that has the second best net rating, and that is the one with Cat, Mitchell Robinson, OG, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
And that one has a net rating of 34. I think they're not done figuring things out, but if I had to guess between those two lineups and knowing what we know about Mitchell Robinson and his health and his inability to likely play a full season, those will probably be the two that we see the most of. And that feels like the at least starting lineup or two starting lineups that are most comfortable for Mike Brown. The bench, I absolutely not. I don't think he's anywhere near done figuring out what is going on there. He knows Deuce is playing, and I think beyond that, he doesn't know what's going on. And that's fine because there are nights where there are certain players that are on and some that aren't. I feel like next to Deuce, maybe Jordan Clarkson is the player that he trusts the most at this moment.
And Hart.
And Josh Hart. But full rotation, no. I'd say probably by like the halfway mark of the season, we'll probably get a better idea of what's the solid one. But those two starting lineups, I think, are what he's going to just continue to go back to because clearly very effective.
I don't think it's real either. I think the top 8 are real. The top 8 being Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson when healthy. Now that's going to be the thing. We're going to see guys fill in for him inevitably. Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson. And then from there, kind of freestyle a little bit. Like, let's see. Right now it's Shamet and Yabusele. And I think Yabusele, because, mid-level exception, he's a legit good player. It just hasn't clicked yet. I think it can still work out. And you kind of need it to because given the makeup of the roster. And this is why I think I'm kind of cheating a little bit here, although I said not, so not really. But if I'm looking at the rest of the guys, Tyler Kolek, Ariel Hukporti, Mohamed Diawara, who I'm not expecting to see a ton of this year, unless he really pops, and Pacome Dadie, who I was expecting to see a little bit, but he kind of hasn't earned it, it appears. Among those guys, I think Hukporti is the one that you'll have to see by force because of Mitchell Robinson's just lingering health. Like, he's just not going to play every game. They have a back-to-back coming up not that long from next week, actually, with Memphis and Orlando at home. Don't know if he's going to play both of those. We'll see. We'll see ultimately how they manage that. But with me and Shamet, I know he has his moments. It kind of still feels like he can be a placeholder that they can upgrade that spot. So I tend to think there's a chance we're talking about this in like February after the buyout market is over, March after the buyout market is over, and after the trade deadline's over, obviously, because trade deadline ends first. And maybe there's a new backup point guard because they don't seem to think Jordan Clarkson's a true like backup point guard. Stephen Bondy keeps telling us that, like they kind of see him as an off-ball guard who can create, which fair, okay. And they're going to need another big. I don't know if that big is going to play over Ariel Hukporti. Maybe Ariel Hukporti owns the spot at some point, the backup spot. But people in this chat have talked about, can they get Moses Brown? Can they get this person, that person? Like, there's another big out there that they're going to need. I think there's another big, like they have to figure that part of it out. what that means for the other young guys, like mostly Dadier and Kolek, we'll see. I don't know if both of them are going to be on the roster at the end of the year. That's just kind of guessing how this could work out. You would want them to work out because financially it makes a lot of sense, and they're both on rookie scale contracts. So to win on the margins, you kind of need those guys to be contributors. That's how OKC has done what they've done. Indiana also last year. The Celtics in the past, the Heat in the past, Denver, even when they won, Christian Brown was playing like rotation minutes, and now he's like a legit dude. So I think I do. East Boucher says go get Ja. I know, I know that's trolling, but yeah, but he does say I feel Yabu's going to have the biggest turnaround the more healthy he gets. Yabusele is the one that I think that's still a swing piece that's kind of important, but I think he's going to be. I think he'll get it together. I was high on that signing before, but no, I don't think this is real. I think there will be some tweaks, but I think the top 8, if healthy, is here to stay.
Totally agree. And same to Yabusele. I don't see how he doesn't improve after seeing how well he did also in FIBA. Like right before the season started, he was an absolute beast.
You know
exactly.
I snort
Yeah.
FIBA basketball. You know what I'm saying?
Like there's no way that he just suddenly became a different player. I think there's reasons.
That team. I have a theory that like these dudes who played Eurobasket specifically, because Eurobasket ended later, and it also had the most NBA players. Eurobasket ended, depending on when you got eliminated, but early September to mid-September if you played deep into the tournament. But Gerson Yabusele, Nikola Jokic, even like there's been questions from people, just sort of guessing here. They're guessing, but they've thrown out there like, hey, they don't look like they're in the greatest shape. and I think the theory for me is like they played Eurobasket, but then afterwards they were like, all right, I'm gonna take my time off now because I had to prepare for this. Like I need to have some sort of real off season, and now they're playing their way into better shape. The difference is though, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world, one of the best athletes in the world. Gerson Yabusele, I think, is going to be solid, but give it time, give that a little more time. Okay, second real or not? Spent long on that one. That's my bad. The Knicks haven't truly played a healthy contender so far this season. They played Cleveland in the first game. Cleveland's undisputedly a contender, but they didn't have Max Strus. They didn't have, DeAndre Hunter. They didn't have, obviously, Darius Garland. And Minnesota is like the first one you can go to where it's like, they were healthy, but Ant was coming back. And I don't know. I'm not as optimistic about the Timberwolves as other people are. But I have to acknowledge they're probably a fringe contender. But is this real or not that the Knicks haven't played a truly healthy contender so far this season?
I would have to say real, because that's true. I mean, Cleveland, like you said, they were missing so many pieces. Boston, obviously, missing Jason Tatum, the big one. Minnesota, like you mentioned, Ant was coming back from injury, so he wasn't going to be 100%.
It's them or Milwaukee. It's Minnesota or Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
About them.
I was much lower on Milwaukee to start this season than I think other people were.
Yeah.
And after that game, I was like, okay, this was a legitimate first test for the Knicks to face Giannis and deal with having to defend him and also defend a suddenly sharp shooting Milwaukee team. Because in that game, their 3-point shooting was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to jump in real quick, the other thing is because Cody, thank you for the comment, says how many teams play fully stocked. That's fair, and there's a part of this where it's like, yo, does this matter yet? You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
Because everyone has an injury report in the NBA. Yeah. Everyone. Mm-hmm. Like it just is what it is now. And some teams, like not everyone has Indiana's situation where they're playing Ray J. Dennis real minutes, and some of you may not know who that is, and that's fine because a lot of people didn't, and now he's playing real minutes. If you play fantasy basketball, you might know who Ray J. Dennis is. But like, does it matter? Is the other thing, Candace? It's like, does it matter? Because it's one, it's November, but two, a lot of teams are just missing guys because of just the vast injury plague that has taken the NBA again this year.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Like, especially seeing how they played against Washington, who was very obviously not a contender, and then seeing how they were able to translate that gameplay into Wednesday and look a lot more confident, especially Josh Hart looking a lot more confident. Then it doesn't really matter because at a certain point, they're just getting comfortable and they're getting more into themselves and into their system. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. So I
Yeah.
think also it'd be very unfair to judge them based off of what was it, game 3 that they played Milwaukee. That's very premature to be like, well, obviously Milwaukee is the better team. They will be advancing farther in the postseason, not the Knicks. Like that's just a ridiculous
Right.
way to look at it.
For Halloween,
Like before Halloween,
let's
before I put my tree up, we're saying that Milwaukee is going to be the superior East team, and they will be getting out of the East.
Maybe none of
So
this matters until your tree is taken down. You
once
know,
the tree's down, first week
there's
of
some
January, then we can start
right. That's the thing. That's the thing.
figuring
Like
things
we,
out.
we keep them up. We keep them up at least for Three Kings Day, first week of
Three Kings,
January.
yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
which
More
is
like
a thing for us in the culture.
February.
I mean, look, some people get lazy and they look at this big ass tree in their crib and they're like, "Yo, I don't want to take this down," and then it's there on Valentine's Day. Like it might happen. So until the tree's down, maybe NBA basketball doesn't matter at all. Is what
It's
we
good
learned
limits.
today. Last real or not, and then we'll get up out of here. Maybe we'll take a question or two also. Last real or not. We should not worry about the Knicks bench any longer. It's over. Like we're good. Real or not, Candace. The bench, no more concerns. After what we just talked about of potentially having maybe a couple holes in there we could pick at. No concerns anymore, real or not.
Yeah, I'll go not.
Okay.
They desperately need to figure out what's going on at backup 5. Like real bad, because even when Yabusele figures it out, I view him as more of like a 4 or like
Yes.
a very small 5
He's
in
a fool.
this system.
He can't guard fives, I'll tell you that. He shouldn't
Yeah,
you shouldn't
no,
want him to guard fives. No.
absolutely not.
Not
Ariel,
especially not like the fast ones. Like not like
yeah,
Bam and like I mean Miles Turner could stretch him out. That could be a problem. So on and so forth.
so they definitely need to get into their 5. I don't know if they trust Hook. I do. I think I would like to see him get more minutes, but again, I would like more length at the 5 on the bench than they currently have. And I would love another ball handler. I would love somebody that is like more of like a pure scorer, or not scorer, pure ball handler, just off the bench to take that load off of Deuce, because I do feel like he's an excellent off ball guard, but he's also very decent as the one off of the bench.
Do you think it
Landry
could be
Shamet,
Kolek? Will be my question. Do you think it could be Kolek? Because I don't want to pour dirt on his grave. He's in his second year.
Yeah.
He'll only be 25 in March, which a little older for a second year guy, but he was actually in college, for a while. But like, I just the defensive concerns are real,
yeah.
and unless you're like, he's a very good passer, obviously, but unless you're that plus a really good consistent jump shooter, that's going to be hard to get over because other teams will be like, hey, let's try to ISO him, let's try to hunt him, let's try to create actions around him, get 3-point shots on his side of the floor. And it's like, how do you get over that? Peyton Pritchard figured out a way to get over that, for example, to compare one small white dude to another small white dude. But like, this is what it is. Like, some dudes figure it out. Some guys are able to figure it out. Tyler Hero, not as much. He's also a really good scorer, but you could target him in the playoffs.
Right. I think with Kolek, I was kind of anticipating him having more of like a TJ McConnell arc with the Knicks, like where he just becomes like that pest on defense that they really desperately need off of the bench, somebody who can score at will, it feels like.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have that just yet. I love that he's confident in his 3-point shot. I love that he does try to score. He doesn't shy away from those opportunities, which shows that he wants to grow in these areas. But I just don't see it for him. I would love to get another guard that's a bit more decent at defending.
A veteran.
And
Yeah.
scoring, absolutely veteran.
Brogdon would have been perfect, I think. I legitimately think Malcolm Brogdon would have been perfect.
And then
It's
my
crazy
big
he retired.
wish would be that they could somehow land just another wing on their bench that's like a bit more playable than Pacom Dadiet, because they're not trying to play him very obviously. I don't think that that's possible just because there aren't 3-and-D wings just like hanging out outside of MSG. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm shooting 38% from three.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. But I think that getting another backup center with a bit more length, and then also finding a guard, a bench guard that could at least be a plus defender, would
Yeah.
do wonders. But right now, those would be my only concerns with the bench. But it's obviously so much better than it was last year.
That-
So
That's true. I mean, that's true. I
yeah.
I agree though. It is a little. So one thing, I guess, I agree. This is not real. I don't think they figured out all the bench thing, all the bench stuff. With Kolek, it's like with Kolek and Bukom Daria, it's like they can become legitimate rotation guys, I think. But I don't know if it's here because of the situation, just the context of it. This is a ring the alarm, win now situation. Like they said it. The first line of the press release, we believe this is a championship roster when they let Tom Thibodeau go. And you get Mike Brown in because it's basically finals or bust. I don't know if it's quite championship or bust. Maybe some people in that building feel that way, but I think at the very least, the expectation is to get to the finals. You're one of the two favorites to do it, and you beat that team before in the playoffs. Now, I think they're a better version now, and they definitely have a better coach. But like that's what we anticipate as the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think a lot of people will be disappointed if they get back there and lose. Which is to say, if Pacome Dadier and Tyler Kolek aren't ready for those minutes, like it's going to be tough to not try to upgrade those spots and not try to move on from them. Or at least one of them this season. So I do have questions about that. I think the top eight's pretty solidified, but beyond that, I mean, you need a guard, but you don't know if you have one, the one you need in Tyler Kolek, and you need a wing. You don't know if you have the one you need in Pacome Dadier, who's never proven to be a good shooter at any level. Like he's athletic, he has the profile, he could potentially defend, but his shooting is never, even in France, overseas, in the G League, in the NBA, it just hasn't really gotten to that point where you need it. And then on top of that, at center, Ariel Hukporti, he was a solid player in Australia in the NBL, but this is the NBA, and it's like, can you provide the anchoring, the rim running, the just overall rim protection, and being able to catch a lob, like being able to catch the ball, period. Can you roll hard? Can you do those things? I think he can. He's probably the one I feel most optimistic about. And he's the one I think we'll have to see because of force. But those guys still have to earn their spots. And the longer we keep saying that, the more I think people will get a little antsy about that situation with those three young guys specifically.
Yeah, and I do like that they are doing with Kolek what they did with Deuce, which is just sending him off to Westchester to get games in, get reps in, because that helped Deuce,
Yeah.
huge way. But at the same time with Deuce, it was a bit different because you knew that he was going to be good from watching him, even as a rookie in those like brief moments that he was featured. He always had a shot. He was always a plus defender. So you knew that he was going to pop at some point into the rotation, and he has. With Kolek, I love his passing, obviously. I feel like he could be a pest on defense, but
Maybe.
his size is a little bit of a question mark in that regard. And then the shooting would be the biggest concern, and just the lack of it, the lack of a shot
Yeah.
outside of his threes. But I mean, I'd love to see it. I would absolutely love to see him develop in this system. I feel like the Knicks aren't given enough credit for developing a lot of their players. I mean, Mitchell Robinson, Deuce, uh, quickly before he was traded. I mean,
Quentin Grimes before,
Grimes,
Obi Toppin was serviceable. He actually had some good positives, plus minus rather.
Yeah.
Backing up Julius Randle. Let's get a few more questions before we get. A few more comments before we get out of here. Just shout some people out. Thank y'all for rocking with us. Again, we'll be back next week with another live. Shout out to Candace for joining. East Blue Drew says, where in the hell is Jameson? Like, he gave us good minutes and disappeared. Two-way contract, so I don't know how much you're going to see of him. I mean, look, is there a world where he's better than Ariel Hukporty? I mean, that's kind of a win for the Knicks if that's the case, because Hukporty is going to be a free agent and Jameson is on a two-way, and you could just sign him to one of them cheap 3-year super team friendly contracts for like $5-6 million and just keep him around. I mean, look, if Trey Jameson ends up being a serviceable backup big, I mean that's a win for them too. Cody mentions Brogdon, kind of throwing them a curveball, which that one is that's interesting too. I feel like also he this was going to be his 10th year, so like get that pension, bro. Like I'm a little surprised he retired before the season. East Blue Drew theorizes that he just wanted that free Abu Dhabi trip.
Fair. Could be on something.
I love that. I love that. Cody says Kolek is my dude, but he's too light in the arse out there. Appreciate that you said arse, because I just not a word I use. I just go straight for it. Fred Flint says Josh Giddey is what New York thought Tyler Kolek was going to be. Ain't hyped to see him on the floor. I didn't hear those expectations. Maybe you did, Fred. So I'm not going to doubt that. But that's an outcome that would have stunned me. That's an outcome that absolutely would have stunned me. I don't know about you, Candace. See, East Blue Drew says he believes in Pacome Dadier, says that he just needs time. Cody says Huck and Diawara will outlast the others. Candace, what do you think about that real quick in like 30 seconds or so? Huck and Diawara will outlast the rest of the young guys. Kolek, Jameson, Pacome Dadier, all these guys we're talking about.
I could see it. I could definitely see that world because they need them. They desperately need them. Mitchell Robinson has made them a necessity. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. East Blue Drew says look at Grimes right now. I mean, Obi last year in the playoffs too. Obi was hooping. He was kind of hooping this year a little bit. And now he's out for a few months, and we don't know if that's going to be the season because Indy. Look, you lose to the Nets, it's tanking time. They got their first round pick at the right time. Last one, Cody, free camel rides. We will end it there. Thank y'all for rocking with us for another edition of New York Got Game Knicks Weekly Live. My thanks to Candace Pedraza, great friend of the show, for joining, filling in for Dexter Henry, who is away this week. He will be back next week. And in fact, he'll be back tomorrow because we have a video dropping tomorrow about we'll say some projections, some potential big picture expectations about the Knicks, which we did a little bit of today as well with Candace. Follow her work on FanSided covering the NBA, the WNBA, and the NFL. For Candace, okay. Thank y'all. And shout out to Tony Starks as well. I didn't shout you out. It says Feliz Navidad, East Blue Drew says. Tony Starks called you the next Malika Andrews. So high praise for my homie Candace. Who you'll find occasionally on my YouTube channel as well, which you can subscribe to. We'll be back again tomorrow, and Knicks Weekly Live will be back next week. Thank you to everybody, our awesome staff here, Tommy Cohen, Nikolai, Tommy Hogan, Wesley as well. We got a lot of things going on here and a lot coming. So make sure you lock in with us. Take care. Have a good night. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow on New York Got Game.